In the coming week, the airwaves, well, they'll be swamped with the words impeachment inquiry.
The center of this new impeachment inquiry.
We call it an impeachment inquiry.
Before launching an impeachment inquiry,
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces an impeachment inquiry.
The government whistleblower who set off the impeachment inquiry.
We really only have one topic to discuss.
Here's a live look at where the high-stakes hearing with the acting director of national intelligence.
What is in that whistleblower's complaint?
It is in the Constitution.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo subpoenaed for Ukraine documents.
These past 10 days in September may prove pivotal. Key moment in the impeachment battle.
What I think has shifted is sort of the moral implications inside the Democratic caucus.
Donald Trump will leave Congress, in my view, no choice but to initiate impeachment.
Oy vey, as my loving grandma used to say. Don't get me wrong, we have a corrupt president. Not exactly breaking news. Should he be impeached? Yeah, for about 25 things. But do you need me to tell you that? Do you need Status Coup to cover this wall to wall? I don't think so. But let me tell you something else that's very scandalous. The fact that Flint, Michigan still does not have clean water 5.5 years later. The fact that Newark, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Cleveland, parts of Florida, parts of California, parts of Massachusetts, Detroit.
So the residents have had to bear this burden of the city screwing up, the state screwing up.
So this issue about water is a growing crisis in the Midwest, if you ask me.
And many other cities in America also have water problems. Another scandal. Black men continued to be executed by the police in the United Corporations of America.
So it's many inconsistencies that's in the situation. So we know, that it's plain out murder.
I understand or have some understanding of police culture, that they like to protect their own.
For years and decades, it's been an open season for black men.
After they dragged him for several feet, they put him back on the ground face down.
Another scandal. State parties all over the country, Democratic state parties, are screwing local progressive candidates, just like the DNC screwed Bernie Sanders in 2016. Another scandal. Fracking and these crude oil, natural gas, totally unnecessary, totally toxic pipelines are being built at a record rapid pace, and there are fighters on the ground getting no media coverage.
Since when is profit more important than water? When is profit more important than people?
So, if you want 24/7 Trump, 24/7 impeachment, 24/7 Ukraine, 24/7 Russia, whatever other scandal of the day, not your guy. But if you want on the ground, in the field reporting of the actual, true, long-lasting, happening way before Trump scandals in America, become a member. StatusCout.com/join for as low as a cup of coffee a month. StatusCout.com/join. Help us build the media revolution. We go out in the field. We've been all over this country in the last 2 years.
Standing Rock. I've been with you. I've been with you since Standing Rock.
Wow, you got me on right now. We're doing it, baby. We're going to South Bend. It's time you show the real Mayor Pete.
In 100 days, they tore down 1,000 houses in 100 days.
Thank you, whether it's Standing Rock or Flint or everything else you do. You know, you guys, it's not even like watching news. It's just watching truth, you know.
It's not me and you, Jordan. It's the ruling class. It's David Koch. It's the Walton family, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's them, not us, that benefit from these illegal offensive wars.
Come on over here. Whoa!
We're here at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and you are going to see live the actual caucus process. We are here.
We go out in the field, and we give the microphone back to the people.
Yo! Cool! I know who you are, yo!
How you doing, man?
You're the man, yo!
Unmarked pills, okay.
Ooh, essential oils, purification. Oh, peppermint. La la la. Love it.
I am worried about Jordan, testing positive. He doesn't have any breathing difficulties right now, but he definitely has a cough that's been really bad and that's been hurting his chest.
That's Fury right there. I've cleared out the desk and now got my drill a hole and we'll see how this goes. Hopefully well. I know a general idea of what I want, essentially, so I'll try and get all this down to about a minute, get the main points, especially I got 2 videos at least for Flint.
The bottom line is, it's Sunday morning, I'm preparing for my Sunday live stream, which usually takes me about 2 hours to prepare for before the live stream. And I got an email from a viewer.
Hey guys, Jen Dice here with a behind the scenes video. First of all, thank you so much for being a member. It's because of you guys that Jamal and I are able to be here. We can't thank you enough. It means just the world to us.
Millions and millions of people have been laid off. Millions more have had their hours cut. We're kind of living in a quiet, silent depression. What do you call 45 million people filing for unemployment?
$1,200 in 3 months makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense.
Everybody should be paying attention to what's going on because this is happening in every county, not just Louisville, Kentucky. And that's why the world is like, wait a minute, enough's enough.
And one thing I do know is if you're not sitting at the table, you are on the menu. And it seems like we continue to be on the menu.
I don't want to have to lose everything that we worked really hard for. We've been struggling for 5 years, and then we finally got everything together, and it just instantly went away.
Literally driving across the country during the pandemic, talking to people, finding out what's going on.
But there are people such as yourself and other people that are telling the true story of what is happening.
All of these black people have been assassinated by police in this city, and none of them have been brought to justice.
People don't really care about those things in places where, you know, we're not New York, we're not Chicago, we're not Minneapolis, we're Louisville, Kentucky.
If somebody calls you screaming for help at 911, they never treated her. They never came to her apartment, nothing.
Vote. Vote. And do what's right in your heart because change comes from within. So as long as your heart is pure and you're doing what's right, that's what matters.
Once upon a time there was truth in journalism where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live, Monday, September 21st, 2020. Status Coup, right here in the United Corporations of America. Hope everybody had a lovely weekend in these growingly tougher and tougher times. It's just when you think 2020 could not get worse, it surprises you. I shall say, I had a lovely 34th birthday yesterday. I'm feeling it today, not gonna lie to you. But appreciate well wishes from all the peeps. Got some really wonderful GoFundMe donations, even though I didn't go live yesterday. So thanks to everybody who donated on my birthday. We're now $160 away from 121,000. Maybe we could do that today. $160 away from hitting $121,000. So keep it coming in the GoFundMe, the Super Chat. Jen's not in the chat today. She is working hard to set up her reporting trip. If you don't know, she'll be hitting the road this week, heading out to the West Coast to cover the ongoing wildfires. She'll also be going to Portland, where there is protests going on pretty much for months. The Proud Boys are also coming to Portland. So there will be some white supremacist gatherings that she will be there for. So right now the tentative plan is to have her in Portland, California, and many, many other places. But the more we could fundraise, the more places she could go. So keep it coming. Obviously, she's going with a cameraman. It costs money, so let us know. Jordan, I'm glad you have the pre-recorded video at the beginning of this. I was able to let those 2 commercials play through without losing any of your content. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? So, I assume most of... Oh, let me just show you. For those where it's getting colder, get your Status Coup hoodie. Is this not the best thing you've ever seen? Woo! Status Coup. Go to... let me get the link to the store if you want to get your Status Coup hoodie, your Status Coup hoodie, your Status Coup hat. I mean, we got something for everybody. So get it while it's on the shelves. Status Coup swag. So, I'm not going to really go in depth on the life of RBG. I think if you want to know more about her legacy, it's very, very much out there. I will say I saw some comments criticizing Jen for going to cover the vigil that was being held for her and protests. Like, some people are getting a little extreme, okay? Like, all right, maybe you didn't like every single decision she made, or maybe I think she said something rude or insensitive about Colin Kaepernick once and then apologized. But I mean, the grand scheme of things, if we could have a little nuance left in the progressive movement, from all accounts, this was somebody that most women in America, especially women that have made it far in America, have been benefited by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I think the people slamming her and bashing her are extremely short-sighted. And she was a trailblazer. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You know, like any Supreme Court justice, she she decided on some cases that I would have probably been opposed, but also she wasn't a politician. I saw some comments like, what did she do for the progressive movement? She wasn't a senator. She wasn't a congressperson. So, yeah, I think those people need to get it together. She was a very, very consequential person. Thank you, Butthole 1999. Big, beautiful birthday boy. Why, thank you. Appreciate it. Keep those super chats coming. Keep the GoFundMe coming. But here's the bottom line. I ain't going to sugarcoat it. We're in a very bad situation. A very bad situation. I think that, contrary to what Joe Biden believes, and we got 200 people watching, so smash that like button. We got 200 people watching, 100 or so have pressed the like button. Let's show you the naivete and the fantasy land Joe Biden's living in.
Not being naive. I'm not speaking to President Trump, who will do whatever he wants. I'm not speaking to Mitch McConnell, who will do what he wants, and he does. I'm speaking to those Republicans out there, Senate Republicans, who know deep down what is right for the country and consistent with the Constitution, as I stand here in the Constitution Center, not just what's best for their party. I don't believe the people of this nation will stand for it.
So, not that Joe Biden is exactly a profile in courage. I think you know my opinion on him. Republicans don't care about the Constitution. They care about the Constitution when it benefits them politically. Ted Cruz, for starters. All of these people, they don't give a damn about the Constitution. That's number one. Number two, they don't care about norms. They don't care about consistency. You cannot shame Republicans because most of them are complete extremist zealots. And like a lot of their base, they have come up in politics really with an ideology on don't tread on me, let me hoard as much wealth as humanly possible, and an extreme fetish on unborn fetuses. That's the truth. They don't care about life, like actual life, like children getting massacred in schools. Don't care about those lives. The coronavirus pandemic, clearly a lot of these Republicans don't give a damn. But they're very concerned about, life in a woman's womb. And this has been the culture war that honestly has helped Republicans as demographics in America change on the presidential level. It has helped them continue to win, even though the demographics, not just in terms of more Latinos voting and more black people voting and younger people not being conservative, but it has helped them in terms of a huge voting bloc that literally just votes on abortion. So, imagine evangelicals voted for Donald Trump and supported Donald Trump, a man who cheated on every wife, who's been accused of rape, I think, by 15 to 20 women, who is the preeminent degenerate of our time. They voted for him because he sang the tune on abortion and a few other things. So the bottom line is we could get into debates, but I tend not to fearmonger, but I'm going to tell you the truth. If, hold on, do I have this graphic? 1 second. Shoot. Yeah, I have it. Hold on. Justices. Hold on. Before, when people told you to vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016, it was hypothetical. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was still here. Now it's not hypothetical. There is a very, very, and this is not me fear-mongering, this is the facts. And if you want to, put your head in the sand, that's fine. But the facts are, there is a very, very strong chance that either Roe v. Wade will be overturned, or it won't be overturned, but it will be weakened. A good example is how the Voting Rights Act was weakened to the point that it is essentially destroyed. I'm going to read you an article on how, if Trump chooses a justice that we think he's going to choose, Amy Coney Barrett, who is on the record against Roe versus Wade. Obviously, Brett Kavanaugh and several others are clearly not for Roe versus Wade. It is very likely that it would either be overturned by a 6-3 Supreme Court, 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. But when you look at Stephen Breyer, I had Colin circle him, he's 82. Nobody has a crystal ball, but he's 82. So if something were to happen to Stephen Breyer in another 4 years of Trump, then you possibly are looking at a 7-2 Supreme Court in favor of Republicans. Now, we could get into a debate about, and I've seen some other progressive outlets today talking about how ridiculous it even is that we have this system of geriatric, unelected judges essentially deciding the fate of the country, in many cases the world. I agree. I don't really understand why these people have lifetime terms. It doesn't, nobody else has lifetime terms. I think, particularly for something like this, they should be made to retire at a certain age. I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have retired under Barack Obama, but it is what it is. There's no point in looking back. So at the end of the day, I'm not telling anyone how to vote. I don't think that's my role. But people need to realize this is no longer a decision about the lesser of two evils between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. This is not what this is about anymore. Frankly, regardless of whether or not Biden wins, I think there's a very strong chance they're going to ram it through anyway. Because frankly, I think Mitch McConnell, in terms of his legacy, cares a lot more about cementing 50 to 75 years of conservative rule on the Supreme Court than possibly losing the Senate for 4 to 8 years. If you look at both options, he cares a lot more about cementing the legacy of the Supreme Court. I mean, if you want to get into the politics a little bit, this is where it stands. Senators returned to Washington on Monday with the Supreme Court nomination fight looming. Back in the Senate for the first time since Ginsburg's death, Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, reiterated his plan to fill her vacant seat. The Senate has more than sufficient time to process a nomination. Republicans could try to rush to confirm a replacement for Ginsburg before Election Day, but doing so could put some of their members up for re-election in greater political peril and keep them off the campaign trail in the crucial closing weeks of the campaign. There are risks in waiting, too, particularly if voters overwhelmingly reject Trump and Republican senators. 2 Republican senators, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, have publicly objected to the idea of a vote before Election Day, meaning McConnell could only afford to lose one more member of his party, given his slim 53 to 47 majority. That focused attention on Senators Mitt Romney, Cory Gardner, and Charles Grassley. So let me tell you what I think here. Number one, I don't think Trump or McConnell is going to try and ram it through before Election Day. Obviously, Trump is already huffing and puffing that that's what he wants, but you also want to give an incentive and more motivation for Republican, if you're Trump and McConnell, for Republican voters to come out. If you try and ram it through before Election Day, then I guess on one breath, that would motivate Republicans to come out because you got another Supreme Court justice through. But on the other end, if it's hanging in the balance as Trump needs to be reelected for you to do this, it will gin up Republican support. So I don't think they're going to ram it through before Election Day. However, whether Biden wins the presidency or not, no one, and I think Joe Biden is living in a fantasy world. With all due respect to Chuck Schumer and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you could do press conferences together, which I found a little odd, but I digress. You can, if you're protesters in DC, we saw protesters waking up Lindsey Graham at 5 a.m. this morning. You could do all of those things. Frankly, you could drop shit on Lindsey Graham's door and all of their doors for the next X amount of days till Inauguration Day. It ain't gonna matter. These people have no souls. They have no They have no shame. They don't care if they're being hypocrites. They don't care if they're being inconsistent. And most of all, they don't particularly care about whether this will further damage the credibility of our democracy, even though we don't have a democracy because we live in the United Corporations of America. So then it comes down to, again, in my opinion, no matter how you vote, even if Trump loses, they're going to try and ram this through in the lame duck. I'm not a Senate procedure expert, but from what I've read, yeah, there's things that Schumer could do and the Democrats could do to delay this, but they can't delay it for months. The inauguration is January 21st. Okay? So, to me, I think this is a true test of whether the Democrats are going to remain feckless for the rest of eternity, or they're going to start rolling up their sleeves and going to a knife fight holding a bazooka gun instead of a spoon. Because typically, Democrats hold the hold a spoon as the Republicans bring the bazooka gun. So what am I suggesting? Because to me, again, I don't like Joe Biden. I certainly don't like Donald Trump. But to me, this is no longer about lesser of two evils. This is about the next 50 to 70 years of the Supreme Court. And let me be clear, whatever people's strategy on voting, I know some think, no, don't vote for Biden because if you keep giving the Democrats your vote, then they're never going to actually come to your side if they know they could just get your vote, even though they treat you like crap and don't give you anything you want. It's the, abused, battered wives syndrome. We just keep coming back and back for more, they call it. But again, to me, this is no longer about that, because there is the things that we as progressives want going to be very hard to get through, even if they come through legislatively. When you have a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court, a lot of that could be struck down. Case in point, the Voting Rights Act was a very non-controversial thing for a very long time. I mean, obviously not when it passed, but decades later, it passed with overwhelming majorities in the House, the Senate. Legislatively, both sides did the right thing and just reinstated it. Well, the Supreme Court struck it down. So who's to say if by sheer, if one day God looks down, if there is a God, and we get Medicare for all in this country, who's to say a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court conservative Supreme Court majority, or if Stephen Breyer croaks, and again, he's 82, he's the oldest one of all of them. Who's to say that a Supreme Court majority of 6-3 or 7-2 can't find a technicality that says Medicare for all is unconstitutional? Who's to say if Citizens United were ever overturned through legislative means, we just have a crazy amount of lawsuits like we did with Obamacare and other things to go to the Supreme Court, and that 6-3 Supreme Court conservative majority overturns that. My point is, again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I don't think that's my role. But people should not be naive to the fact that this is no longer about the next 4 years. It's not about the next 8 years. It's not even about the next decade. This is about the next 50 years. Okay? Clarence Thomas, he ain't going anywhere. These Republicans, Alito, Roberts, they're young enough to stay on that court. And Roberts, in the recent years, has kind of been, in some cases, a swing judge. Surprised a lot of people, infuriated Republicans when he was a deciding vote on Obamacare that didn't strike it down. But if you add another conservative justice, we're hearing Amy Coney Barrett, who is on the record, she's against Roe versus Wade. He's no longer going to be the swing judge. So, to me, I think the Democratic Party, if their donors will allow them to, because we know that they don't make the decisions in this country, neither do the Republicans, the donors make the decisions, they need to shut the Senate down, period. I'm talking, if protesters want to do something constructive, shut Washington, D.C. down. Chain yourself to that building if you have to, in lockstep. Do not allow Senate to do business. Period, end of story. And the Democratic Party should be proud of it. They should call on people to come to Washington and shut it down. They should chain their geriatric asses to the Capitol, because this is not credible, right? I mean, I'm not surprised that Mitch McConnell is a gigantic hypocrite. I'm not surprised Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham are all moonwalking on their principles in 2016, that Merrick Garland shouldn't have had it. But this is not a credible, in good faith thing. This is stealing a seat in 2016 and ramming one through for yourself. So why should the Democratic Party, and I'm no cheerleader, as you know, for the Democratic Party, but why should they treat this as if it's a legitimate thing? They, not calling on violence, of course, but they should shut the Senate down. No hearings, no nothing. And to me, the most imminent, the most urgent shutdown is not actually before the election, because I don't think he's going to be successful. I don't think Mitch McConnell is going to try to get a nominee confirmed before the election. I think it's the lame duck process. To me, I don't think it's a clear-cut case that Trump is going to lose. I know what the polls say, but I also have seen the warnings from the Michael Moores of the world who are screaming about what I saw in 2016. Zero enthusiasm in places like Michigan for Joe Biden. Zero signage. Lawn signs, highway signs, signs in general for Biden, while it's Trump everywhere. That's what Michael Moore's saying is currently happening in Michigan. Battleground polls, Biden's up between 5 and 7 in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, but there's 3 debates, folks. This is not over. But if, and by the way, let's remember something. We are in an unprecedented time, actually, while I am live right now. Unprecedented. While I am live, we might pass 200,000 deaths linked to coronavirus, which I think is a fake number. I think it's much higher than that. I don't believe that only 200,000 people have died due to coronavirus. I think it's very likely a lot of people that died were not counted towards coronavirus and died in their homes. But regardless, the tragic, horrific number, we're about to pass 200,000. With mail-in ballot, all these things, it's very likely we might not know the winner for weeks. So imagine that. You don't know the winner for weeks, not only the presidential, but a lot of these Senate races. So if you don't know who the president is, whether it's still Trump or it's going to be Biden, if you don't know if the Republicans are even keeping the Senate, look at New York, look at other states that literally took a month to confirm the results because of delays in mail-in balloting and absentee balloting. You think Mitch McConnell's going to say, yeah, you know, for the integrity of America, we should wait. For the integrity of the court, for the integrity of us, we should wait. I got a bridge to sell you. By the way, 350 people watching, 200 of you have pressed that like button. Can I get another 150 likes? By the way, I am taking executive privilege to extend my birthday one more day. My birthday was yesterday, but you're welcome to continue leaving your GoFundMe presents so we can hit $121,000 raised. And if you came to this late, Jen is hitting the road because we get back in the field. We give the microphone to the people. So Jen will be heading west. She's going to be covering the wildfires. She'll be covering protests in Portland. Proud Boys are coming to Portland. So white supremacists clashing with Black Lives Matter protesters. What could go wrong? And speaking of, she'll have more on this, but we're definitely going to need to raise more money because, of course, Jen is going to be getting a bulletproof vest for that kind of reporting. It's extremely dangerous to be at these things. When I was at the Young Turks, I got a bulletproof vest for the Republican convention in 2016 because you had all these lunatics carrying AR-15s outside. So we definitely appreciate any amount you could contribute in the GoFundMe, in the Super Chat, whatever. So, I mean, I just want to show you the stakes because I do believe, and I'm not trying to be fatalist, but I do believe there's a very good chance that Roe versus Wade would either be overturned or severely weakened if Trump is able to confirm a 6th conservative judge. Let me just read you a little bit of this. Here's how the process to potentially topple Roe might play out. Number 1, state legislatures would pass laws that make it overtly illegal to have or perform an abortion. Although SCOTUS ruled in Roe that women have a fundamental constitutional right to have abortions, later case law narrowed Roe's reach by ruling states could regulate abortions, from parental and spousal consent law to mandatory waiting periods to physician licensing privileges. States have passed many laws that make the process of obtaining an abortion more complex. State legislatures have been standing by for years, waiting to pass laws that clearly conflict with Roe, either by requiring overly burdensome regulations or by banning abortions altogether. Until now, passing such statutes wasn't a good move because they were bound to be struck down when the statute was questioned as part of litigation. A strong conservative majority on the Supreme Court, however, might welcome the chance to reconsider the Roe rule, and some states would be more than willing to create an opportunity for it to do so. Those states already saw Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court as an opportunity to push aggressive legislation. Number two, someone, or more likely some group of people, will sue. That litigation will begin in federal district court and make a beeline for the Supreme Court. It is possible that the case would even be fast-tracked because cases involving pregnancy have an inherent urgency. When the Supreme Court hears the case, the conservative litigants will argue Roe versus Wade should be overturned and that a right to have an abortion should not be read into the established right to privacy under the First Amendment. And by the way, that is, Roe versus Wade was ruled in large part based on those grounds, an implied right of privacy under the First Amendment. If that argument prevails, then individual states could be permitted to legislate against abortion. Abortion would still be a matter of state law, but there could be less limitations on how states would be permitted to legislate. Number three, conservative justices will band together and change the Roe rule. There are several roads the Supreme Court could take to undo Roe. The court could explicitly overturn Roe, ruling that abortion is not a fundamental right after all, and leave the states to legislate however they wish. Alternatively, the court could distinguish the case from Roe, rule that there is some legal right to have an abortion, but narrow that right considerably. I'll put this in the super chat if you want to read, but the bottom line is, folks, make no mistake about it. It's very rare that you hear from me something is a certainty. I believe it is a certainty that if Trump is able to nominate a sixth conservative, particularly one that is on the record, like Amy Coney Barrett, believing that Roe versus Wade was passed in a faulty manner and being pro-life, they don't need to straight up overturn it to make it ineffective. They can weaken it. They could give more power to the states to weaken it. And then if they do that, yeah, if you're let's say they don't overturn it, but they severely weaken it, yeah, if you're lucky and you live in New York or New Jersey or California, you'll probably still have access to an abortion because these are Democratic states. But Republican states all over the country, including Texas, Louisiana, Florida, that have spent God knows how long weakening, they're going to be free to do that. And there's going to be very, very, not much that, women's rights group could do to stop it. So those are the stakes. Henry Volt, 35, $10. This was never about the Republicans' belief about what's right or wrong. Hell, they don't even have a leg to stand on anymore when it comes to abortion after reports of the ICE hysterectomies going on. Absolutely. Jen did a great report on that. Sam, $4. Extended birthday. Why, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. Keep it coming in the super chat if you can. Appreciate any GoFundMes too. Very, very nice. So I'd like to read something. This is from a law professor and historian of the Supreme Court, Sam Moyne, in Jacobin, and this stood out to me. The question was, one of the reasons that John Roberts has become the new swing justice is there's this well-publicized concern that he has about the legitimacy of the court in the eyes of the public. If Trump manages to get another hard right nominee on the court and there is a non-Roberts hard right majority, is there a possibility that we see the court moving in an even further right direction regardless of what he thinks? This was the answer. Oh, undoubtedly. John Roberts is disempowered in that case, and the justices further right make gains. Now it's plausible that not just Roberts, but in some cases Brett Kavanaugh would join a centrist bloc with Stephen Breyer and Elena Kagan. The conservatives have different issues they care about and are not always in lockstep. Only maybe Clarence Thomas is a fan of Trumpism, but the rest are not just products of an earlier phase of the conservative movement. But faithful to it. And they have other games than Trump himself has, notably when it comes to abortion. But there's just no doubt that affirmative action, which is probably already dead, is on the way out if Ginsburg is replaced by Trump, and abortion may not last long. The most frightening possibility is the constitutional invalidation of the administrative state, which may already be in the cards no matter what. And in general, the jurisprudence will move to the right because Roberts will no longer be the swing vote. I also think there's something else aside from abortion that we need to be talking about. If you haven't noticed, conservatives are trying to criminalize protest. I mean, we know what's going on with Julian Assange. I've been covering the extradition hearing going on in the UK, but all over the country, conservative Republican governors are trying to criminalize protest. Now, Ron DeSantis, a Trump mini-me, is calling for further penalties for protests. DeSantis told reporters during a news briefing today that a new bill would charge protesters with felonies for damaging property and inflicting injuries, as well as sentence them to mandatory jail time for hitting a law enforcement officer. The bill, which state lawmakers will consider during next year's legislative session, would also bar protesters who commit crimes from receiving state benefits or working for the state. Quote, "We're not going to go down the road that other places have gone. If you do it and you know that a ton of bricks will rain down on you, then I think people will think twice about engaging in this type of conduct." Let me tell you, as somebody who's been, ain't my first rodeo, I've been to Standing Rock, I've been to many, many cities with protests. A cop will attack you, and then they'll prosecute you, saying you attacked a police officer. That's how it works in America, which is going more and more to be a fascist state. Oh, your flat brim hat arrived? What about my hat?
There are a few in there.
Can I get the hat so I could show it off?
Which one?
I want to get the regular hat. And you could come on to show the flat brim hat. The Status Coup hats have arrived, folks. Woohoo! So,
I'm gonna pee in them.
okay, thank you. Get them now while they're hot. Hold on. Love it. So, we'll talk about where to get your hats soon, but this is the new Status Coup hat. Feels good, feels good. So, who's to say that a 6'3" conservative justice won't cement and confirm criminalizing protest in the United States, creating massive fines, creating felony jail time, solidifying and confirming what these southern states have tried to do in terms of interfering with critical infrastructure on these pipelines fights. So this is not only about Roe versus Wade, although to me that's the most important. I mean, if you're a progressive, particularly if you're a man, you should be an ally to women, period. And Roe versus Wade is, in my view, sacrosanct. I'm going to have a child sooner or later. If it's a girl, I certainly don't want a 6'3" or possibly 7'2" conservative Supreme Court majority. Do you? And I hope you're not confusing this. Again, this is not me telling you how to vote. This is me telling you this is what's at stake. This is now what's at stake. This is not a drill. It ain't theoretical anymore. You get it. Obama already cracked the head of many protests. Your point? Yes, I agree. But at least, take this off, under Obama, they didn't quite criminalize protests in America yet. I'm not saying Obama was wonderful. Trust me, he wasn't. But at least it wasn't criminalized yet. So, Medicare for all, if that one day pass, you don't think a 6'3" or 7'2" conservative majority will find some technicality or BS reason to strike it down? That we can't have a universal health care program in America because it breaches the rights of the pharmaceutical companies because corporations are people? Remember that one? Wow, this hat is fantastic.
Mine is better.
Come on. Show the people.
What did you call this hat?
Flat rim.
No, it's flat brim.
That's it.
This wire. Let me come from the other side.
Make the sale.
Oh, no, I am not in sale. But this is I can't say the F word. This is a effing awesome hat. I mean, what's not to like?
Speak it to the mic.
Oh. You can wear it tilted to the side. Feeling sassy. You can wear it like this. It has green here. So that's like.
Wonderful. Thank you, darling. So, that was a good segue. So, I'm sure we'll be covering the Supreme Court fight for weeks to come. I'll give you my honest take and opinion. I think this is a big effing deal. And I think this is something that I hope the Democratic Party puts their spoons down and brings a bazooka tank, because they're going to need it. Mitch McConnell is a political terrorist, and it's time to fight back. Now, keep those super chats coming. 355 people watching. 266 of you have pressed that like button. Please keep it coming. No GoFundMe's yet, so that's that's hurtful on my birthday postmortem. Remember, just turned 34, but that's okay if you can't contribute. So I want to move on, because this story, and I shit on the corporate media probably more than anyone. How old is she, Jordan? She's cute.
Yeah.
She's, can I say your age?
I'm 31.
31. Turning 32 soon.
Jordan!
We're getting married soon, so it's been quite eventful here. That's why Jen's hitting the road. I'm busy for the next month. But Jen, we want to get Jen out there anyway. So people are saying you're cute, very wonderful. She gets cuter every super chat. Every super chat she gets cuter. So in America, when you do real investigative journalism that exposes banks and governments and fraud, typically it's not treated as big breaking news, because the media is in bed with the banks and the government. Remember the Panama Papers from a couple years ago? That was a mega story. It proved that major wealthy sleazebags, Democratic Party donors, Republican Party donors, were basically laundering money all over the globe, stashing it on islands and things like that. Basically, the corporate media, sighed, said, oh, that's interesting. And then they went back to the reality TV show of Stormy Daniels and the Cold War. Well, I got to tell you, this BuzzFeed news story that I have not fully been able to get through, it's very long, is essentially confirming what I've been telling you as long as I've had a public platform. We live in the United Corporations of America. The government is just a stand-in and puppet for the banks, for the corporations. They work for the banks and the corporations. BuzzFeed has broken a massive story on a global criminal syndicate where major U.S. banks, major governments, have essentially just been the processor for illegal drug cartels, for terrorist financing, and for other criminal activity. And the banks essentially just allowed them to keep doing it because they got their profit and their fees. And the governments did not do anything to the banks because the banks run our government. I'm not going to read the whole story. It's pretty long. I would encourage you, if you have time, try to get through as much of this story, because in a sane society with a responsible media, yeah, I know there's a pandemic and RBG just died. They should find time. This should be leading many broadcasts. This is a big deal, this story that BuzzFeed broke. Credit to them for a really, really important story. Thank you for the super chats. K. Wallace, $5. The Dems are wusses. They will bring out slingshots. What did Nancy Pelosi say the other day? I have some, what did she say? Owls in my, started with a T.
What?
She said, I have something in my, I forgot. If somebody knows what she said. She said, I have some bullets in my thing, but it was like something in my, starts with a T. Anyway, Duder, happy birthday, Jordan, $5. Thank you, Duder. Timothy McDermott, $24.99. Keep up the great work, my friend. Why, thank you, Timothy. We are friends. Keep it coming in the GoFundMe too. $10. Angel Martinez, you are my angel. Lauren, $10. We're now $140 away from $121,000 raised. So I'm gonna read some of this story because arrows in her quiver. Thank you. Arrows? What are you, fucking Katniss from the Hunger Games? Arrows in quiver. More like spoons for my luxury ice cream. Nancy Pelosi. Anyway, from BuzzFeed. A huge trove of secret government documents reveals for the first time how the giants of Western banking move trillions of dollars in suspicious transactions, enriching themselves and their shareholders while facilitating the work of terrorists, kleptocrats, and drug kingpins. And the U.S. government, despite its vast power, fails to stop it. More like, enables it. Today, the FinCEN files thousands of, quote, suspicious activity reports and other U.S. government documents offer an unprecedented view of global financial corruption, the banks enabling it, and the government agencies that watch as it flourishes. BuzzFeed News has shared these reports with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and more than 100 news organizations in 88 countries. This is a 2-year investigation, by the way, from BuzzFeed. These documents, compiled by banks, shared with the government, but kept from public view, expose the hollowness of banking safeguards and the ease with which criminals have exploited them. Well, banks don't have safeguards because the Democratic Party of the 1990s deregulated blanks. Thank you, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, and the rest of them. Profits, and well, Republicans were with them too. Profits from deadly drug wars, fortunes embezzled from developing countries, and hard-earned savings stolen in a Ponzi scheme were all allowed to flow into and out of these financial institutions despite warnings from the bank's own employees. You see, before I go on, this is why I never really bought Elizabeth Warren's campaign, other than the fact that she doesn't stand for anything, left Bernie standing at the altar twice, and many other things, because you can't regulate your way out of corruption, right? Elizabeth Warren, her main thing was putting the regulators back in place. Putting the cop back on the beat. Not fundamentally changing the rotten system, but deregulated blanks. Did I say that? I meant banks. Sorry. A little hungover. But, the bottom line is you could tighten regulation, you could put more enforcements, but if the system is set up in a way that governments can't actually hold banks accountable, that bankers will never go to jail, in this case, which I'm about to read you, for literally just processing drug cartel money laundering, terrorist money laundering. When Jordan drinks, he snores, that's true. Then it doesn't matter what regulators you put in place, they're not able to do anything. Let me read more. Money laundering is a crime that makes other crimes possible. It can accelerate economic inequality, drain public funds, undermine democracy, and destabilize nations, and the banks play a key role. Quote, some of these people in those crisp white shirts in their sharp suits are feeding off the tragedy of people dying all over the world, said Martin Woods, a former suspicious transaction investigator for Wachovia. Laws that were meant to stop financial crime have instead allowed it to flourish. So long as a bank files a notice that it may be facilitating criminal activity, it all but immunes itself and its executives from criminal prosecution. The suspicious activity alert effectively gives them a free pass to keep moving the money and collecting the fees. Let me read that again. Laws that were meant to stop financial crimes have instead allowed it to flourish. So long as a bank files a notice that it may be facilitating criminal activity, it all but immunizes itself and its executives from criminal prosecution. That's like if the getaway driver to the bank robbery sends an alert, hey, I'm facilitating the bank robbery. If you send the note beforehand, you can't be criminally prosecuted, even though you're driving the getaway car. That's insane. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, is the agency within the Treasury Department charged with combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. it collects millions of these suspicious activity reports known as SARs. It makes them available to U.S. law enforcement agencies and other nations' financial intelligence operations. It even compiles a report called Kleptocracy Weekly that summarizes the dealings of foreign leaders such as Russian President Vladimir Putin. What it does not do is force the banks to shut the money laundering down. In the rare instances when the U.S. government does crack down on banks, it often relies on sweetheart deals called deferred prosecution agreements, which include fines but no high-level arrests. Thank you, President Obama. The Trump administration has made it even harder to hold executives personally accountable, under guidance by former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, that warned government agencies against piling on. Yes, why would we pile on Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, Wachovia, AIG, Countrywide, for bringing down the global financial system, for foreclosing on your home illegally, and draining your savings that you worked hard for? Why would we pile on those sinners? Alex E, $29.99, launder this for me. Well, Alex, if you made it public, it's not laundering. But thank you for the $30. I will launder it in spirit. Catherine, $5. Happy belated birthday, Jordan. Why, thank you. I appreciate it. I got to tell you, 34, I've already pulled my hamstring today. Jordan! It ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. I got to do more stretching. I am moving soon, so I'm going to be riding my bike more for exercise. Anat is talking about getting a Peloton, but I think that's a little... I think that's a little bougie, to tell you the truth.
You're not welcome to use it.
I'm not welcome to use it?
No, if you're going to make fun of it and trash it.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, I digress. So, but the FinCEN Files investigation shows that even after they were prosecuted or fined for financial misconduct, banks like JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, Standard Chartered, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of New York Mellon continued to move money for suspected criminals. Suspicious payments flow around the world and into countless industries, from international sports to Hollywood entertainment to luxury real estate to Nobu sushi restaurants. They filter into the companies that make familiar items from people's lives, from the gas in their car to the granola in their cereal bowl. The FinCEN Files expose an underlying truth of the modern era. The network through which dirty money traversed the world have become vital arteries of the global economy. They enable a shadow financial system so wide-ranging and so unchecked that it has become inextricable from the so-called legitimate economy. Banks with household names have helped to make it so. BuzzFeed's investigation shows that Standard Chartered moved money on behalf of Al Zaruni Exchange, a Dubai-based business that was later accused of laundering cash on behalf of the Taliban. During the years that Al Zaruni was a Standard Chartered customer, Taliban militants staged violent attacks that killed civilians and soldiers. HSBC's Hong Kong branch allowed WCM 777, a Ponzi scheme, to move more than $15 million, even as the business was being barred from operating in 3 states. Authorities say the scam stole at least $80 million from investors, mainly Latino and Asian immigrants, and the company's owner used diluted funds to buy 2 golf courses, a 7,000 square foot mansion, a 39.8 carat diamond, and mining rights in Sierra Leone. Jesus. Bank of America, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, American Express, and others collectively processed millions of dollars in transactions for the family of Viktor Krapunov, the former mayor of Kazakhstan's most populous city. Even after Interpol issued a red notice for his arrest, Krapunov, who had already fled to Switzerland and who claims the allegations are politically motivated, was later convicted in absentia on charges that included bribe-taking and defrauding the city through the sale of public property. The banks mentioned in this story said they could not comment on specific transactions due to bank secrecy laws. I'm sure. Their statements can be found here. By law, banks must file suspicious activity reports when they spot transactions that bear the hallmarks of money laundering or other financial misconduct, such as large, round-number transactions or payments between companies with no discernible business relationships. Suspicious activity reports are not by themselves evidence of crime, but FinCEN's director, Kenneth Blanco, has called them vital for law enforcement investigations. So, and for more than a year, BuzzFeed and its partner news organizations across the world mined the information on these tens of thousands of pages. So in a nutshell, folks, and here it is one more time, if you want to read this piece. And, you know, credit where credit's due. This is a great investigation. This is what media should be doing, not creating a new Cold War with Russia, with bullshit Russiagate nonsense. But in a nutshell, the major banks whom were bailed out by the government after defrauding you and predatory house mortgages, predatory lending, they simultaneously have been essentially serving as the middleman and processor for drug cartels money laundering, for terrorist money laundering, for laundering by plutocrats and kleptocrats around the world, while black men are being executed by police, while black men are still in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, while people are being evicted from their homes during a pandemic. You think there's two different systems of justice? Not just in America, but in the world? I got news for you. Break up the banks. Bernie is right. Nationalize the banks. You literally have cold hard evidence here that you're talking trillions of dollars. And by the way, this trillions of dollars that's being laundered, this isn't like just money from, you know, that they robbed from a bank. A lot of this money being laundered is working people's money from around the world. They're laundering, I've seen this through research I've done on drug cartels, watching El Chapo. They're laundering pension money, you know, money that you have in pension accounts. If you're a labor union worker, they're laundering that money. Laundering retirement savings money. They're laundering money for contractors. So it ain't just like, they're not just like taking it from the bank. They are laundering working people's money in America and around the world. While in the same breath telling you the American dream is still strong. If you make, you know, if you lift yourself up by the bootstraps, even if you don't have boots, you know, if you work hard and play by the rules, you could make something, make something of yourself. How can a government claim to oversee industry if essentially what I just read to you, they're covering, literally these banks are just covering their ass? The law is written in a way that if the banks just file a suspicious activity report, they're covered, even if they don't do anything. Just the act of filing a SAR, what they call it, if they're laundering money for Pablo Escobar or El Chapo or Putin or MBS in Saudi Arabia or fill in the blank, hell, maybe ISIS. And Trump or Biden, we know nothing's changing because Biden said so. This was what he told his donors. Corporate America has to change its ways. It's not going to require legislation. I'm not proposing any. We've got to think about how we deal people back in. Before that, infamously, he said, your standard of living won't change. Trump is a giant phony. He's not a populist. He's been fluffing pillows for Wall Street and these criminals that are money laundering for 4 years. Does Jordan understand what money laundering is? Yes, I understand what money laundering is. Tell me what I'm getting wrong, Mr. Oswissels. I mean, this is a massive story. And I wonder, I mean, credit to BuzzFeed, I wonder why I haven't seen this on CNN or MSNBC. I know that MSNBC, I know that Morning Joe, every time they go to commercial, they tease they're sponsored by Charles Schwab. I know that Politico is sponsored by Bank of America for many things. I know when I watch, so you don't have to, when I watch MSNBC or these other places, I see commercial after commercial after commercial for big banks. I know that the New York Times, before the pandemic, did a money, Money and Power conference or something, sponsored by, I believe it was Wells Fargo. You don't launder money clean, talk CIA, then we're talking? What are you talking about? I didn't say you launder money clean. Univision covered it, Jordan. Well, thank God. They're covering it because a lot of Latinos and immigrants are having their money hijacked. This is a massive story. And it blows the lid on what we are. Folks, we don't live in a democracy. We live in the United Corporations of America. The government, the politicians, senators, congresspeople, even the good ones, the few good ones, are just vessels for JP Morgan, Bank of America, and the rest of these criminals. These criminals who, in addition to laundering money, have the audacity to put Black Lives Matter signage in their windows when it's optically good for them to do so during protests, while charging black people and brown people higher interest rates than white people. I think it's well past the time. Joe Biden ain't gonna do it. Donald Trump ain't gonna do it. We need to reinstate Glass-Steagall. That's number one. Separate these investment banks from commercial banks. We need to, frankly, break up these massive banks, in addition to Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Sam, we got to decolonize the system. That's what I'm saying. Talk that radical talk. And we need to nationalize. These banks, what this BuzzFeed story describes, and it ain't as sexy as like the food fight on RBG's replacement. I get it. But what this is showing is not only a rigged system. This is showing a criminal system. This is showing banks as the processors and the liaisons to drug cartels, terrorists, and kleptocrats. Hello? Am I in the Twilight Zone? Ooh. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. If you start by hanging the billionaires, you win. You know, Zoe, you're going to get me in trouble because YouTube's going to say I'm inciting violence, but I don't know about hanging them. That's a little much. Maybe stoning them?
Spanking them?
Stoning them? Spanking them? Today, Sam Cedar was making terrible arguments on his show. I can't stand him. He's been making some bad arguments for a long time. So I'm going to look more into this. Maybe I'll interview a BuzzFeed reporter about it because this needs more attention. I mean, essentially, we're being fucked every which way.
Whoa!
Okay? There's a pandemic, rent's not canceled. There's a pandemic, there's no national health care. There's a pandemic, there's no universal basic income. There's staggering levels of income inequality that's getting worse and worse. Increased poverty. Water being contaminated all over the country. Food being contaminated all over the country. People working 2 to 3 jobs. Meanwhile, Bank of America is helping to launder money for whoever the El Chapo of today is. One bank was helping launder money for groups connected to the Taliban. So, color me a little perturbed that this is going on. Moving on from one criminal story to another. And keep it coming in the GoFundMe. We're $140. $140 away. And by the way, if you want to get the brand new Status Coup hat,
Yeah!
go to the store. Status Coup merchandise store.
You should show off the flat brim hat. It's so pretty.
I don't know. I don't think the flat brim looks good on me. Hold on.
It is such a sexy hat.
Sexy hat?
Yeah. And then cock it up, put it a little to the side. Yeah. Some sweat.
Like that?
Yes! Yes!
I don't know. I don't know how that looks. Let me get the link if you want to get if you want to get the hat. Get your Status Coup swag. So, yeah, but you can't see the logo when it's.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. I can't see it.
Standing up next to yes, I can.
You can't see it on the show. So, this came through right before I went live, and it does not look good, folks. A state of emergency has been declared in Louisville as the Breonna Taylor decision looms. The Louisville Metro Police Department has canceled all off-day and vacation requests until further notice as the agency prepares for Attorney General Daniel Cameron's announcement in the Breonna Taylor case. Sergeant Lamont Washington announced the decision in a Monday afternoon news release. Quote, "The public may also see barriers being staged around downtown, which is another part of our preparations." In a memo dated September 21st, Interim Chief of Police Robert Schroeder declares a state of emergency, enacting the changes. Quote, "To ensure we have the appropriate level of staffing to provide for public safety services and our policing functions, effective immediately, the LMPD will operate under the emergency staffing and reporting guidelines, blah, 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 blah." So, happy to have egg on my face if I'm wrong, but it's my strong suspicion that they are preemptively announcing to you that there will be no charges against the police officers that shot and murdered Breonna Taylor while she was in bed in the middle of the night sleeping. To me, if you look at the timing, we just had the announcement of the $12 million settlement between Breonna Taylor's family and the Louisville Police Department. Not that $12 million is by any means enough for the loss of a life and a daughter and a sister and all that. But optically, they put that $12 million settlement in front, which, as in the case of Flint, they just announced a $600 million settlement, which oftentimes they try to put settlements out front first if lack of criminal penalty is coming. To me, again, I've only been to Louisville once, so I can't say that I know the community as well as I would like Flint or other places I've been more. To me, if they announced no charges against those police officers, which again, I don't really know why they would preemptively file a state of emergency, barriers, all that, if the decision were to charge those officers. If they charge the officers, you're not going to see mass protests in the street. You might see mass celebrations, but that would be a good thing. If you're not going to charge the officers, which, based on the Attorney General of Kentucky's speech at the RNC, which made him sound like a mix of R.I.P. Herman Cain and Ben Carson, a lunatic, I don't think they're charging these police officers, which is what I predicted months ago. And if that happens, I got news for you. I think, I won't say who, but somebody attached to Breonna Taylor's family said if they don't charge these police officers, the city will burn. And although I, would not advocate violence, I would understand for black people, particularly on the west side of Louisville, which is the most impoverished, there comes a point where you just can't keep getting killed. You can't keep having your cousins and brothers and sisters and fathers killed and harassed without burning the city down. They've tried to be nice. They've tried to protest. They've tried to run for office. There is no scenario, in my view, based on what I know about this case. Maybe you wouldn't charge all three officers, but one of these officers, the one that has been fired, should have been charged already. Maybe extenuating evidence comes out that two other officers that were involved were trying to put a stop to it. We're trying to do the right thing. We don't know. But in America, if police officers in the middle of the night could come to a woman's home unannounced with a battering ram, according to all the witnesses, break in, and rightly so, be shot at, because who the hell, if it's the middle of the night and you can't hear that they're police, we're told by the Republicans, shoot first, ask questions next. If it were me and I had a gun and I didn't know who it was, I don't know what I would do, but I might shoot. Those police officers had no business doing that in the middle of the night to a woman with no criminal record and was a nurse treating patients criminally. The cops, frankly, lied to the judge to get a no-knock warrant in the first place. So I hope I'm wrong. Be happy to have egg on my face, but I anticipate we are going to hear no charges, which, you know, to me, I think if there's no charges, it's not just Louisville. I think it could reignite what we saw in April and May with the George Floyd murder, where we saw unprecedented protests. But I think in that case, you know, I wouldn't call it justice, but at least the officers were fired and charges were brought relatively quickly. In this case, if there's no charges, Jordan, don't lie, you'd hide behind a knot. Dimitri, bite your tongue. How dare you challenge my manhood like that? I would not hide. I think there's going to be protests around the country, and frankly, I don't think they're going to be particularly peaceful. If a woman could get shot to death 7 times while in bed and no one's held accountable, then we don't have a legal system in this country and we don't have justice. So, I'll stay on it. I got my alerts ready. I have contacts in Louisville that I'm keeping tabs with to see if they know anything. And we will see what happens. But it is definitely an ominous sign that they are preemptively putting a state of emergency, canceling scheduled days off for police, canceling scheduled vacations, putting barriers down in the streets. That would indicate the police know what the decision is and they are preparing accordingly. So, that's all I got today. I'll be back tomorrow. Remember, Jen is hitting the road this week. She's going out west. She'll be covering the wildfires. She'll be covering protests. Proud Boys are hitting Portland, the white supremacy group. Jen will be there for that. She's also going to California, possibly to cover the wildfires there. And she's also working on possibly going to a swing state, possibly Arizona, Nevada, to cover the Latino vote, which is going to be critical in deciding the election. If you can. All of this costs a lot of money. With coronavirus, we've unfortunately slowed down in our membership, which is our business model. Hold on, get rid of this. So that's why we've really been stressing GoFundMe at the moment. So if you can pitch in, definitely, any amount really helps between flights, rent-a-car, hotels, food, broadcasting costs. LiveView costs us over $500 a month. It really makes a difference, any amount. Or you could sign up as a Status Coup member, which we also love, for as low as $5 a month. And if you want to look too cool for school like me, go right now. Get your Status Coup swag. Get your Status Coup hat in the store. There's the link. Let me read some comments before I go.
Move your hat to the side a little.
It's tight.
It's adjustable.
Take the rest of the night off, birthday boy. I shall. When is the Proud Boys thing? September 26th. So that Saturday, we will be live. We were already a fascist state prior to Trump. He just ripped the mask off. I agree with that. Be careful of those Proud Boys. Yes, she's getting a bulletproof vest. That costs.
What? Aren't those hundreds of dollars?
That costs a lot of money.
What?
Obviously, safety is number one, so we're getting her a bulletproof vest. So pitch in if you can. Hint, hint. Let's see. I'm a sister, but that's okay. LOL. Okay. What are your thoughts on RBG and OIN case? I started the show for a half hour with my thoughts on RBG, so I'm not going to restate it. I don't know what OIN is. You'll have to spell that out for me. OIN case. But I think the RBG is what I said. We're fucked.
Whoa.
Sorry, Jordan, but I think a knot looks better in the cap. I would agree with that. I would agree. SC is balls to the walls. I agree. And, you know, we're not just balls to the walls because, you know, Jen has different parts. So we're just full throttle Oh, sure. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Jordan, that other hat looked way better on you. I agree. I'm contaminating all the hats with my...
Contaminating?
Thank you, Kelly Elaine. I like this one. It feels better. But you can get whatever you want. Regular ball cap, flat brim, whatever. Get them while they're hot. Get them while they're hot. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. As always, definitely support us in the GoFundMe. Also, spread the coup. Spread the word. Get us around. We're at 89,000 subscribers. We are very judiciously working to get to 100,000. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.